the kick that marked the return of a once highly touted young prodigy. Who experienced rugby league stardom at a young age. With the footy world at his feet, he would almost find himself without an NRL contract only 4 years later. This is a story of more than just a talented footy player, but the evolution of a man from insecure and immature to a captain and a leader. Let's deep dive the career of Jackson Hastings. Growing up in Warilla, in the Wollongong region, Jackson would start his rugby league career at 8 for the West Illawarra Red Devils, where at a young age his star began to rise. He lived and breathed rugby league, often sleeping with his footy ball at night. Switching to the Berkeley Eagles at 15 to join fellow NRL star Jack Bird, he would win a premiership at the side in his first year and would win 2 more premierships at the Albion Park Eagles. Hastings would become a household name at the junior level and would be called up to the St George Illawarra Dragons under-20 side at just 17 years of age. He would hear the critics early on in his career, being the son of former league great Kevin Hastings, a 3-time Dally M Halfback of the Year and Blues representative. Often told he was only making sides because of his last name, this bothered young Jackson, with himself having little to no connection with his father, Kevin, throughout his upbringing, with his father in America till he was 18 years of age. In fact, Jackson was 10 before he even knew that his father was a professional footy player. The plaudits often come from Jackson to his mother Megan, who was a big reason to his sudden rise to the NRL. He was a mainstay at the representative level throughout his junior career, called up to the New South Wales representative sides at the under 16, 18 and under 20 levels, whilst also featuring for the Australian Kangaroos and schoolboys sides with fellow schoolmate Ewan Aitken and other NRL talents like Alex Johnston, Jack Bird, Tavita Pangai Jr. and Michael Morgan. Jackson would follow in his father's footsteps though, being poached by the Sydney Roosters, becoming part of their first grade side at just 17 years of age. Without a father figure and with such fame at such a young age, Hastings was often labelled as a problem child with attitude issues. Often an outsider from the group, this troublesome label would stick to him early on in his NRL career, which would start the following year in 2014.
Yeah, I think I was a bit ahead of myself definitely at that point in my life. I was only 18 when I first met you actually, and that was sort of my downfall at the Roosters.
Debuting in round 26 against rivals the South Sydney Rabbitohs, Hastings would feature off the bench at just 18 years of age in round 26, an amazing achievement for such a youngster. Hastings was destined for stardom, as pundits recognised Hastings as both a future Kangaroo and Blues level talent. The NRL media became fixated on his early career, and it would definitely take its toll on Hastings' psyche. It was safe to say that Hastings had a bit of a bigger ego than he probably should have had that early into his career. It would not take long until issues would surface with the Sydney Roosters. He'd play with the Sydney Roosters for 2 seasons before rumblings of discontent with Hastings came to the surface. Whilst training with the first grade side, he was still playing at the under 20 level and would have an altercation with a trainer during the game. He would be banished by coach Trent Robinson from all first grade trainings for the remainder of the year. It was also rumoured that Jake Friend and the senior leadership group at the Roosters were just unhappy with Hastings' behaviour before he would sign for the Manly Seagulls in 2017. Hastings' discipline and level of play had not been great up to this point, and Manly was a chance to get his career back on track. Jackson would feature as a utility for Manly, featuring in 9 games in his first year and 4 in his second season, as he was struggling for minutes and again would clash with his teammates. This time it was with Daly Cherry Evans, Manly's leader, and with it first understood to be a physical altercation between the two, it was actually just verbal, with Hastings staying out past curfew drinking. Hastings would be demoted to reserve grade for the Blacktown Workers side and then eventually was released as his rugby league career was on the brink. Effectively, Hastings was jobless, with a tarnished reputation and no NRL offers. He knew nothing outside of footy, and what was destined to be a legendary career came quickly crumbling down. Hastings would look overseas for offers and would receive a lifeline 8-week contract in an attempt to revive his career in the English Super League. With what was expected to just be a short stay, it would turn out to be something incredibly special. At rock bottom, Hastings would receive an offer from Salford, an 8-game contract to save the club from relegation. It was an incredibly tough task, with Salford destined for the drop. Hastings would pull off something heroic, with the club winning every game that Hastings would play in. The club would narrowly escape relegation from the second division via the playoffs. Hastings was a clear standout and had won over the fans in a matter of 3 months. He went from someone labelled as a pest to someone who was absolutely adored by the fans for his behaviour on and off the field. With it a clear turning point for Jackson, he decided to stay on another year with the Red Devils in the Super League. It was an opportunity to right those numerous wrongs. With Hastings on the other side of the world with no family or friends, he had to fit in and he wanted to become a leader. He would do this both on and off the field, producing a magical 2019 season. In a season where Salford were again expected to get the drop, Jackson Hastings carried his side well away from the drop and towards finals footy. Hastings would have a massive 44 direct try contributions, 14 more than second place, and 8 tries in a single season. In one of the greatest single seasons ever in the Super League, Hastings would win the Man of Steel award, recognising the most valuable player for that season. He would win the award by a fair margin and would lead Salford to the Super League Grand Final, a feat that seemed more than improbable at the beginning of the season, with the club tipped for relegation. They would fall to St Helens in the Grand Final, but the season in itself was something special, as Hastings went from zero to hero, absolutely adored by the Red Devils fans. During the 2019 season, Hastings would make his international debut, playing for England 4 times, with the season becoming a career renaissance. Hastings would then move on to Wigan for a better opportunity to return to the NRL the following year, where he continued his excellent play at halfback, where he remained in the top 5 for direct try contributions the following 2 seasons. He would feature in another grand final in 2020 again, just falling short in devastating fashion. With Hastings continuing to dominate on the field, it was off of it where he made the biggest strides. Using the UK lockdown to his advantage, he would seek professional help for the mental demons that had plagued him throughout his early childhood. Seeing a psychologist regularly, he was able to dissect some deep-rooted issues from his fatherless childhood, which has allowed him to be more comfortable within his own skin. Throughout the 2021 season, he would receive offers from NRL clubs, but was being asked to play out of position and as a utility, which was not what he desired. It was not until he was offered a contract by the West Tigers, who believed in both his rugby league abilities and the development of his career, that he would return to the NRL. There were still numerous detractors when Hastings returned to the NRL, as their final memory of the half was his bratty nature that led to his dismissal. What they didn't realise is Hastings now knew what it was like to almost lose it all, to go from a young prodigy to unwanted, and that he was hungrier than ever to put things right. Hastings would come back as a leader, and in a team in disarray like the Tigers, it was needed. In the first 2 rounds of the 2022 season, Hastings would shine in a side that was clearly overmatched by the Melbourne Storm and Newcastle Knights. He would receive a 3-game suspension for an unfortunate but dangerous tackle and return in round 6 against the Parramatta Eels. With the club winless all year, enduring their worst start in the joint venture's history, and paying at $10 on betting sites, it was clear the Tigers were given no chance. What no one expected was a dedicated and resilient performance by the Tigers, as the club went back and forth with one of the competition's heavyweights. Hastings took control, and by control I mean he owned the game, with a whopping 90 touches of the ball, which to put into perspective is only 7 less than the record. He barked orders and provided skillful touches around the park. The game was an absolute nail-biter. With 5 minutes left and both sides tied, Hastings would slightly overplay his hand and allow for a 7-tackle set. The old Hastings would become agitated and frustrated by the error, and may have crumbled. Hastings was no longer that player though, and showed resilience. With only seconds remaining, he would step up and perform some absolute heroics. Kicking a field goal on the siren, Hastings would secure the club's its first win with an outpour of emotion after the kick. He gave West Tigers fans something to rejoice. This is the cultivation of years of rebuilding his career which led to this moment. And when he could have taken in all the plaudits, he put all the praise towards his teammates and coach Michael Maguire. Only a week later, the Tigers would yet again find themselves in an absolute thriller, with his halves partner Luke Brooks kicking the winning field goal in the final minute. You can see even in the play, him pointing to Brooks, with Hastings delivering on his promise that he made when he signed with the club, saying, "I can't wait to shake Luke's hand and put my arm around him and let him know I'm going to try and help him in any way possible." Jackson Hastings had come back from the UK a new man, and should be applauded for his turnaround. These are the moments that highlight how far he has come, and is the definition of a comeback story. Where many NRL players are ridiculed and vilified for their behaviour, we must acknowledge the players who learn from their mistakes and bounce back. As a Tigers fan, thank you, Jackson Hastings.